Frankie here. Today I am joined by Roxrite. We simply just don't have time for introductions today. We already know who you are, and there's just too much to talk about today. We're going to cover perspectives and knowledge on breaking. What a treat it really is to have you on the show today, Rox. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's an honor to be here. I mean, I'm glad that we could sit down and talk and share some stories.
Breaking since '95, of course. Born in Mexico, raised in Northern California. It's just like a comic book superhero arc. I think that it's very important to take a little bit of time, even though we might have some background on you already, take a little bit of time to try to understand your origin. And not just as it relates to breaking, because the things outside of breaking absolutely have an effect on our dance. To do this, the first thing I actually want to do is show a practice clip of you. You have this clip on your YouTube. We're just gonna roll a little bit. I know this is already 2002. This is already a few years into the game, of course, but just let it run. What are we looking at here, Rox?
Prepping for Lords of the Floor. I remember being inspired and motivated, find movements, new ideas, and I also had a job, so I was like constantly working. At this point here, you can see me just trying a bunch of like small details. I just really got inspired when I found this footage as to the way I was moving here and the process of the way I was connecting moves. Yeah, it was just a time in my breaking where I felt like I was kind of lost and I was trying to refine myself. If the guy in the background, actually, he's an old school b-boy from where I grew up.
You say that you were lost. What do you mean by that?
At that time, I had been in Renegades for 2 years at that point. Being a young up-and-comer, where I come from, I looked up to like Wick and all these guys throughout the years. Like, they're iconic figures in the Bay. When I got in the crew, they had like a certain level of information that they were giving me, but I had already had a different side of information prior to that. So I was trying to be what they were teaching me instead of implementing. I've said it before in like my DVD and some stories I've mentioned it before about hitting like a rut that was really hard for me to get out of. This is the end of it. This is like the beginning of the new phase. For 2 years, I really wasn't like practicing that good. I was stuck mentally. I couldn't create. It was like the part of my breaking I hate to watch because there was nothing that I was doing that I enjoyed. I was just kind of forcing myself to do the moves. If you watch footage of me in the late 90s, the moves I was doing then and transitions, everything I used was way different than what I was using here. For me, I wasn't pleased with my level of breaking. Deep inside, I knew that I wasn't reaching the potential that I had. It was hard for me to be okay with that. It kind of ate me up a bit, but it took a while to realize that because you're trying to be something that people are teaching you and sharing with you. And I think that's the misinformation many people carry. When someone comes to teach you or somebody's sharing their knowledge with you, it's about listening, of course, and studying it and finding ways to implement it in the way that you are moving and the way that you're growing in your dance. So with me, I try to become the knowledge instead of implementing the knowledge.
You're trying to reconcile information from before Renegades with the new information. Could you give an example of what that might have looked like?
Trying to implement like more top rock stuff into my dance, which eventually it did kind of help when I look back at that time. Almost like a certain approach with certain way of moving, like more footwork. I already had footwork, more top rock, more dancing on top, more footwork, but I already did all that. It was like I stepped away from all the transitions and freeze game that I was developing in the 90s into adding all these other steps that I already could have done and implemented to the way I was moving, but instead I tried to just do only that. And that's where I got lost. So if you just watch my Straight Up B-Boy DVD and you watch 97 through 99, you see like what I'm doing there. And then when you go and watch this, it's fucking way different. Transitions are like not really as strong. I'm doing a lot of footwork, repeating the same step, the same hook step. You can just see like what I'm losing my steps in.
You said something really interesting just now too. You tried to become the knowledge as opposed to using it for your own style, right?
Because the knowledge is important to know, right? Knowing your history, knowing your lineage of styles, just like what you represent and where it came from and how you're learning it. Because you're going to be able to teach that down the line as you mature and you age in the dance. Especially with the tradition like Renegades in the Northern California breaking, like there's just a lot of like history and so much information. It's important to know it, but also like know how to utilize that knowledge because not everything is for everybody.
You have to figure out how it fits you.
Within that, you'll find the way that it fits the style of breaking that you're doing within breaking, but also it'll fit the style of breaking in general because breaking in general is a style of dance. How can you implement these different regional knowledges of information that people had or carried or styles that they developed, and then they share them and it's like, oh, that's dope, and how do you implement it to the way that you're moving but still make it look fresh and be original?
What do you remember about your mindset just for basic things like training or your inspirations?
I was just definitely like heavily inspired by like Wick and Style Elements and the guys from NorCal. Still inspired by like Rocksteady at this point heavily. When I think back at this time and those moments, like here, I'm just trying to refine that fire of practicing, like consistently. Because for so long, I was so inconsistent with practice and it never felt right that I was just finding the inspiration again. And a lot of it also just came through music, to be honest with you. Like just finding albums and songs, like things that were dope to play and practice and moved me. I think, yeah, a little like I can't remember what album was out at this time. I was listening a lot to like mixes, instrumentals, and I was just finding like rare songs to break to, and it was also moving me. I can't remember the names of them, but I started finding them more and more around this time, and I think that also helped trigger my motivation.
And you also mentioned that you were working. You're saying that there were challenges with staying consistent with practice and still being able to compete at a high level.
I was working at Trader Joe's 4 to 5 days a week. I was attempting to go to junior college. I would go to work, try to go to school, and then I go break. And I had a relationship. Life comes and hits you too. In a way, I guess that's also part of the extra addition to the slump, right? I graduate high school. I have no real way to make good money. I get into a relationship, my first relationship, first real like job. I get in an iconic crew. All those huge changes really like kind of like slowed me down because I wasn't ready for that, right? Prior to that, it was just like school and break, school and break, school and break. Now it's like you have to transition that to work and break, work and break. Oh, now there's this new dynamic of a relationship in your life that you've never had before. Trying to find the balance within that, I guess it took 2 years. And then you're getting all this information fed.
I want to point this out here. From my experience, that transition from high school or junior high to college, that's where a lot of breakers fall off.
It takes a different mental awareness or just being aware of where you're at and kind of knowing what's coming. And when we're young, we're just living. We don't think like, oh, let me see, I'm in 5 years, I'm going to be a pro breaker. Like, no way. And breaking's not guaranteed to be anybody's game. It's like at this point, I'm just breaking. No real like structure of like heavy training. This is just pure like the old ways of breaking with no methodical, like you gotta work out, you gotta go running, you gotta do this. It was really like rare for us to start hearing of these things at that time, you know. Like at that time, the most training I did was like just play sports on the street, like football, basketball, and ride a bike. Like I used to ride a bike 10 miles just to like get a cardio workout in. That was really it. There was no real like regimens of like dieting or anything like that.
We're gonna continue on with the chronological order of things. We're gonna review some older footage. If we wanted to watch a more complete timeline of your battles, we'd be here all week, Rox, so we can't do that. First clip we're gonna show is Boogie Breath Squadron.
So on the elbow slide, I felt like I messed up. So I felt like I had to make up for it for the rest of the round. This is a time in breaking when everybody was hungry still. Like, everybody was very active, especially that generation of the 90s was still heavily involved. This moment is a moment that really, I think, re-sparked my fire for the scene. My career has gone in seasons. So this is the first battle I did since I had been prepping for Focus. K-Mel, Boogie Brats. You know, K is an icon in breaking. Me and him have never collided. I've had a lot of respect for him and I've always appreciated his breaking throughout all the years. So in this battle, I will after Smurf, but technically I'm starting the new round for K. So the first round, I went out. I was like, all right, cool. That was a cool round. And then he came out and he just went off and did everything, killed it. Did match transitions, both directions, air moves and stuff. It was just really well done. And then he gets up and he's like, pop, pop, the fuck out of here, or something like that. And I was like, that got me boiled. This is how we're going to do this? The next round, that's why I came out like that. When I hit the elbow slide and I kind of got stuck and I immediately jumped out of the transition, the beat changed. And as soon as the beat changed, I changed the flow. But it was like all in the moment because I knew that I had to get back to him because he gave me a hard round. So now I got to give him a hard round. And that's why when I get up at the end, I get up and I'm like, that's how you do it. So then I leave the ball on his court, like, now what you got for that?
One thing you said at the beginning, this was the intersection of the 90s B-boys still being active and the newer generation starting to come in. I 100% agree with you. I only started in 2011, but just that footage from that time is just, there's something golden about that time period, right?
Exactly. It's a lot of raw energy, a lot of battle cats that still had a lot of character, aggressiveness. They still represented where they were from, and you can see in the battles at that time there was that will of wanting to win.
When we look at 2002 to now 2009, What do you see about yourself as a person in terms of trying to figure out these transitions as a younger person and training?
I'm 27, just moved to San Diego, not been working a real job for a year and a half, just been given time to breaking more and more. It's technically already like living off of breaking. A few months prior I had gone to India where we started packaging the Roto BC1 All-Stars to present it. At that time I was preparing to battle Focus at Outbreak. That summer Mex came to San Diego and was like, oh, I want you to battle this 12 round exhibition. Nobody's done a 12 round exhibition, but I want you to battle Focus. And I'm like, let me think about it. I don't know, it's a lot of commitment. That helped me actually like get myself in shape to do stuff like this. Because this year was actually not a successful year for me. This year I think we only won 3 or 4 battles. We were losing quite often. It was like a rebuilding year. Some years you go down, you go up. That year we won the biggest battles that mattered. And we created the moments that mattered. We won freestyle session, we beat Style Lemons, Monster Squad, which to me, they were our icons, at that time. They were like the guys that won everything. So to beat them at the finals of freestyle session that year was massive, right? So that's a big win. Me and Kid David won like a 2-on-2 in LA when I first moved to San Diego. I think it was a Hope Annivesary, and we battled Underground Flow in the finals. Then comes this battle against Boogie Brats and beat them, and then I won R16 that year as well. Maybe we lost some battles on the way in the process that were big, that we felt like we could have won, but then we end up winning important moments.
Another 2009 clip, R16, a one-on-one. And I kind of want to talk about your approach when it comes to 3-on-3s versus 1-on-1s, but let's watch your round first. We're going to watch your third round of the final battle, R16, stakes are high.
Damn, Laguette, still at it. Damn. Good memory. I just remember how to keep it clean here. Here we're looking at the first ever R16 solo. They asked me to do it. I had been on a little Asia tour maybe for like a few weeks already at this point. I had just been training and I just started feeling good. I started connecting the moves. Things started to feel good again at this point. This battle, I was just feeling hungry. I was trying to bring out new ideas that I haven't used in battles, and that was my main goal. Of course, I use certain signatures, but the goal was to bring new concepts out every battle. And this last round here, I saw Laguette made some errors, so I knew I just had to keep it super sharp. And when I hit that freeze transition to the snap freeze, I carried the very basic traditional storytelling of breaking, which is the beginning, middle, and end, the pattern of 3. So 3 strikes is always really clear for the mind to read. If you saw Laguette's round, he did some cool stuff, but there was no like structure or story. Storytelling is not just fluid breaking that we see today, where it's like this endless flow. It's actually knowing when to stop your round and knowing how to deliver your ideas in a format that is understandable.
Because by the time you get to the end, it all makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about the technical side. Does the strategy change? I know you just gave us a great summary of the rule of 3 and storytelling. Does the strategy change more subtly when you go from 1-on-1 to 3-on-3? You want to complement your crewmates?
When you do 3-on-3s and stuff, it's like knowing your strengths and who's strong at what and whose day it is. I think a lot of times I see people compete in like crew battles and stuff, and I see a lot of throwaway moments. Every moment matters. Every round matters. You don't need to walk in and warm up. You need to walk in and strike. I notice people come in and they're like, let me just vibe out a little bit. That too cool for school shit is not gonna work. Even in battles, the reason people lost to people like us or even lost to me is because they underestimated me because they were on the too cool for school shit. Now, on paper, I'm not supposed to beat a lot of people I beat. It's kind of when they say if you get punched in the mouth hard, you might have to rethink your strategy. So if you strike hard right off the bat and you punch them hard, you make them get in their mind. Maybe they underestimated you and they see something they've never seen you do. That's gonna trigger their mind like, okay, now I gotta beat that. And you're forcing them to try up you right away. And because they're not ready physically, maybe mentally they weren't prepared for that, then they're looking for things and they start making errors.
Throwaway moments, I like that. You're putting yourself on the offense and you're putting them on the ropes.
When you go first, that's the goal, right? So like in the Boogie Brat battle, we went first. So it's like David is super technical, like with music, mad detailed on the song. So his whole first round, if you actually watch it through, he's like playing with all different layers of the music, every single detail. Boom. Now come back at that. Casper wants to go after David, but did he match that level of synchronicity with the music? I don't know if he did. And props to Casper, that's the brother, so it's the homie. So I'm just saying, like, in terms of when you're judging it, how you would look at it. But also, you're seeing a style of Casper that is also dope. So it's just, it comes down to almost like, what did he do better than Dave? Or, you know, it just depends what you pick. At that point, I think most judges gave that round to Casper. Then Keeps comes out, and then Smurf comes out, right? So it's like everybody knew at that point that you have to go strong if we're going first. So when you're doing group battles, is also what I say with knowing your strengths for each member. It's like knowing how to use them for who and what. So it's like, you know who you're battling. You've seen all these people. People want to act like they don't know who's who and all this shit. Like, y'all faking it. Like, you're gonna go to a battle. It's like, you know, there's people that are there that are, you know, are good. Like, everybody's at a level, so you can't underestimate nobody. Everybody deserves their like acknowledgement of level of what they're doing. Cause, I mean, if not, then you would lose every battle. Also, establishing an idea of where everybody's head is at that day. When he does this, I'm not gonna do that. When he does that, I'm gonna do this. And also understanding how to complement one another.
You mentioned who's having an off day, right? How does that play out?
That plays a huge role. Because the guy that's on, that's the guy that you gotta send on the tiebreakers. The guy that's creating the moments, that's the guy that gotta lead the battles. Either you put him against the weakest link, or you put him against their strongest link. If you wanna have that person stand out more, you put him against the weakest link. And then you can give up that losing round to the strong guy with the guy that's having the off day. But then it just varies. You'll know, because you know your peoples. This guy's maybe not 100, but he's still doing some stuff, enough technicality that maybe we throw him against this guy that doesn't have any of that. I felt off last week. Ron carried me all the way through to the final at the Prodigy battle. That's what it felt like. Then I woke up in the final. The first round, I didn't feel too strong about my stuff, so I was like, you know what? Next battle, you get the 3, and then the final, I'll get the 3. Battling's its own art. That's why breaking is an art, but then the battle side of the dance is also its own art, and you gotta know how to like battle.
You leading the finals of this 3-on-3.
It was a long round. And here we're watching the finals of Freestyle Session 2014 in San Diego. This was the year that we were the defending champions. We were coming back with the first rings ever made. I saw Costa go out. He really had a pretty solid round. He's very technical, and the way that he also approaches music is really like strong. So I try to like pace myself more with that. So I try to highlight more of my approach to what he just did, because he went first. So it's like, okay, I'm responding to you. So you took your time on top more than me, but I'm gonna also acknowledge that I am gonna dance with the beat the way you did. Maybe I'm not gonna dance as strong as you. My tops may not be as strong as yours, but I'm gonna give you that acknowledgement. But then I'm gonna get down to my technicalities where I feel like I have an advantage over you. So he also has some strong stuff, but then I just try to play with concepts, patterns, unexpected angles of transitions and freezes, catching him from weird positions. That coin drop, drill, air baby catch, halo, I never done that really, and even then I don't use that ever again. At that time, that felt right that day probably, and I just did it right there.
And you're having this kind of dialogue, maybe not that detailed, as he's doing his round.
Yeah, exactly. And then as we go, I go into like more footwork, and then I start playing with patterns, highlighting with the music, and then do like a rocking inspired step in my footwork to kind of play with the music again, and then I stop with the transition into a strong elbow freeze. Then I leave a finish. He chose a step in this round instead of a freeze. For me, he left the door open there.
To be able to get to that point where you know how you can capitalize on your opponent's weaknesses or maybe some of the holes they put in their rounds, what does your practice look like to be able to get to that point?
It's just the art of battle, and I think you have to battle. You have to learn how to battle outside of contests, and it's something that has come up a lot more lately, but it's hard to try to teach that because we don't have the environment for that no more. So with me, before I competed, I battled people probably over 100 times without competitions. I would battle our rivals everywhere. Boom, house party, park, school dance. Okay, he's not from here. Okay, then I go to the next town, find the next guy, battle him. Go to this town, find this guy, battle him. Find this crew, battle that crew. Go to this place, battle that crew. Like, it was just constant, like just finding, battling, because that's how we were learning it. In '95, '96, '97, before I ever competed, I was trying to find who was the best people were, and it was like constantly battling. So that made me understand like how to get stronger at things that I lacked. So nowadays we're premeditating like rounds too much. So you have competitions, and competitions are dope, but when you're having to learn through competition and performance, you're not learning the real side of like the authentic side of like the battle. Like when there's no judges, when you yourself walk away being like, damn, that guy beat me. Well, everybody can walk away now and just disagree with the judges and be like, oh yeah, we should have won that. I won that. We got robbed. How many times do you hear that? Everybody walks away saying they got robbed. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we all get robbed. It happens. It's part of the game. Yeah, it's true. But to say that every time you battle, you got robbed.
And you can win a battle and not feel good about yourself.
Exactly. In those battles, there is no judging. So you know the feeling is there. And maybe both of you had a great battle and you both walk away being like, I feel like I won that. And he could walk away feeling like he won that because there's no judges, but you both put on a dope ass cypher battle, right? So maybe that could happen, but eventually you will have moments where you're like, damn, I lost that. That guy had moves that I didn't. But because we don't have those environments anymore, people don't have to test themselves no more. So now they're just measuring pure performance instead of battling. There's different styles of battling as well. So now you have like the performance side where people are just going to overpower you with their strengths and crazy moves. And then the other guy might just come out and try to outperform you with just like, let me show him how to dance a little bit more because he's not dancing. And then there's people that do just pure sets, and then there's people that create moments in battles, and that's rare. And knowing how to build off of that, that's how I battle, but that requires a different level of training. Your vocabulary of movements on the day of the battle should be like this, like an open pool. You should be able to grab from here, but at the drop of a dime. So when I see a move done, I base it off of what I see. If I have an idea already going into a battle, like, okay, I have like 5 moves, I know that this guy's strong at this, I might use this against him to try and reel him into some of my other ideas. But if he doesn't fall into it, okay, what did he just do that I can do right now that reminds me of my moves? Then I build my round off that. But it has to be done in the moment. And to me, that's the funnest way, and that's why I love battling. When people ask me, like, why do you still battle? You did all these battles, you won this many battles, because I still thrive on that feeling. How much of a challenge is it that whatever I see in that moment, can I readapt to that right here, right now? And it's getting closer to the end because the moves that are being done now are so far, they're getting to the point where maybe I don't have a response to that. And maybe that's when my time comes to step away from competition.
But what you're describing, though, how you approach each battle, it's going to look different every time. When people ask you, like you're saying, why do you keep battling? You're not performing. You're not running rounds. It's not a matter of you doing the same round again and again and again. Every round is different.
That's the beauty of breaking. And I'm not going to say that I've never gone through the period where I've done like rounds that were like the same from other battles, because earlier in my years, I had moments where I would train heavily, and then one day all these moves would snap, and I would just create rounds that day. And then if I got lazy with my training, I would just go back, watch that footage, and bring that round to the next battle. But that wasn't really like my way. That was just like my way when I was too busy or working or doing things that I didn't have time to train 100. So then I can come back with what I already know works. But I call that like lazy battling. More authentic battling, the raw battling is more when I'm in that zone adapting.
Here's kind of a weird question. Based on what you're saying then, because this is new for me, the way you're describing it, do you feel like certain times, maybe not every time, you're judging a battle, you're watching a battle of people you've never seen, and you can tell when they're running a set, even though you've never seen them before?
Yeah, you can see. Most of the time you can tell. Sometimes you can't. Some people can play it off really well, like it's a performance. Some people are good at just, some people have that ability to show you that in a raw way, because I've seen it. People that I thought didn't do sets, I went to another country, and these people are highly regarded, and I had to judge, I think, 2 or 3 battles in one weekend, and I seen them do the same exact rounds every freaking battle. And I was like, okay, so this is not like, it's not what it looks like to me, you know? So the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then the next, I'm like, oh, he just did that yesterday. And I'm like, oh shit, he did it again today. You know, so then it just kind of gives you perspective as like, some people may run sets, but they know how to pull it off.
Renegades versus Monster 2017.
His battle energy is always so intense, but that's what makes him like such a strong person, you know. And when he battles, he knows how to like attack. It's a rare thing. It's like what I said, character in battles, right? He has that. I think my foot had gotten caught on the shirt or something. This is like me getting back into training. I had taken some years off. A moment, another moment. That was just like a heated exchange. Gravity somehow has that energy to bring that out of you. That's why I appreciate when I get to battle him sometimes, because he just has that presence. That first round, I felt like Zeku rushed through his round and went like straight to the moves without really taking his time with music. And I did kind of the same approach. I was a little bit slower in some parts, but nothing major. What I tried to do against his round was try to just do all my signatures. So if you saw like that round, every single move I did was my signature move. I know that he used more universal combos, and he used, I think, one like transition that's unique to him. But then after that, it was more like, I've seen a hollow back. I've seen a hollow back to Halo. I knew it was a strong round. I don't know if I can do some of that, so how can I counter what he just did? That means I gotta drop all signatures through the whole round. So I just stacked it up, one-handed freeze frame stack, then back down, then footwork, original footwork concept, then melting halos, then freeze frame stack, back to back to back to back, my concepts that I innovated. And then it comes a tiebreaker. My freeze don't come out like that normally. When I was about to go into it, I kind of like restarted my top rock because I felt like I was coming from the wrong angle. Then this dude decided to say some shit. I think Zeku was like trying to diss me. And I looked at him and was like, all right, watch this. And then that already gave me like the triggering energy to be like, do it harder. So then I threw it and then I just stuck the freeze. And I just remember being stuck and I seen my crew and I was like, oh shit, wrong way. So then I rolled off my shoulder and then I popped into like an air chair looking at them because I knew where I was and I knew where they were. That was something that just happened. I've never done that move that same way again. And the funny thing, I accidentally came across that move warming up in a cypher and another battle like a month earlier. Wasn't nothing like that though. It was a halo to like a two-handed elbow freeze. And I think when I hit the freeze, I like rolled back and then I caught myself in like a chair. That day, I remember that in that moment. And then I just did it right there. Gravity came in, he took his time. I think he just was out of gas at that point. Like in some of his freezes at the end he tried to do, they just didn't hit. For me, I knew that a freeze would stand out because I know he tried to do a freeze. It was a very special moment. It was my first time battling in the Bay. As you can see, I'm wearing the 49er colors on purpose. So the white with red, gold pants with red shoes. It's like a representation of where we're from.
Just last week, I want to talk a little bit about Ron. This guy's been killing it the past couple years, obviously. He seemed like he came out of nowhere in that BC1 cipher with Hijack a couple years ago. How long have you known him, and what is your mentorship role been?
I met him in 2019. I went to Denver to judge the B-Boy Factory's anniversary. Just seeing him and his partner, they were battling. They were just like advancing, and Run was definitely doing a lot of like different combos and everything, and he just stood out. You know, he had a lot to say in those battles, and he was battling some hard people that I felt like I had seen already for a while. Both of them, they were both pushing, but I can tell he was like pushing with more level changes, and it just stood out. Talked to him there briefly, chopped it up with him. I saw him somewhere else. I think he told me he was going somewhere else, and I saw him there. I saw him in Seattle, and then we just kept seeing each other, and he was always very open to just conversation and talking and asking questions. Yeah, asking a lot of questions, and to me that showed his hunger for information. In 2020, we were rebuilding and adding new members to Renegades, and we already had this vision already, but then everything happened with the world, and we were like, okay, well, we can't connect with these people, but we can find ways to still get a hold of them. And he was one of the guys that came up right away. Who do you think we should add? And it's like, oh, I seen this kid Run. And we put him in Renegades, and then that kind of starts this relationship of like us staying more in touch and communicating more. In 2022, I got him to get under my wing program. So at that point, me and him had already battled. We had done stuff already since he was in the crew. And just from hanging and interacting, we just been building and building and building. I don't look at him like, oh, he's like my student or anything like that. I look at him more, he's just a peer in my crew. But he's younger for sure, and he wants to know more. With that, I'm able to like help him and just sharing stories with him, just share like my experiences, share with him my knowledge. He came to LA already a few times. He's trained with me in LA. Yeah, so he's making the effort to want to learn, and I'm able to give back whatever I can that maybe he can pick up on. I can see he's implemented a lot of different things, either whether it's information of mine or other guys' information, or just the inspiration that he gets from the scene in general, you know? So I just try to help him with whatever I can. But yeah, that's been my role, and been more active. I mean, last year we went to Belgium together to battle, and we lost in the second round, you know? So like, we've had our experiences, and it's like we just keep connecting and building, and it's been dope to just see him continue to evolve and just starting to implement these different details that I think he could benefit from. So yeah, my relationship with him is like a friendship.
I guess the takeaway from this, it would definitely benefit us if we could find the people we look up to and try to interact with them if there's that connection with them, right? Seeking information.
Some people are able to share their information, you know. Some people may be a little bit private with it. I teach a lot, I share a lot. If you want to learn, cool, you know, I give you some information that I got on what you're asking, but to get deeper into things, you gotta keep doing the research, you gotta keep asking, you gotta keep doing. Of course, it's gonna take both people to get that information out, but you have to want to learn. I don't have time to be like, yo, you didn't call me yesterday at 5 p.m. when you said you were going to call me, or you didn't show up to practice. Like, I'm here, I'm training, you want to come get down, you want to learn, come learn, but like, don't waste my time. Like when I learned from ground level, or I learned from Gremlin, when I learned from ground level, I was like, yo, what time is practice? Boom, there. Every day practice at this time, on the concrete in the park, boom, we're there. We're practicing in front of the garage today. We don't got linoleum, but just come, boom, I'm there. I'm at his house, I'm asking questions, we're watching footage. Gremlin, I'm like driving to Frisco every like couple of days, train or chill and just interact and learn from him, just stories. And he's dropping gems on me. I'm constantly there to learn, and I'm asking questions. Oh, who is this person? I want to know. Where now it's like people want to learn, but it's like through the internet.
Taking the initiative, for sure.
I mean, I used to drive 60 miles one way just to go chill with the crew and connect with Gremlin. 60 miles one direction, and I used to do that 3 to 4 days a week. And there's a lot of local information out there for a lot of people in different cities. I think it's just doing the research to find out who those prior to you guys were. I think we have a lot of lost history, but yeah, you want to learn, and you got to take the initiative to go after it. And even then, that's the information that you can benefit from down the line. Maybe some people it doesn't implement in their dance, but maybe it's here, and then they're able to share that with the world, and that's a different way to give back as well. You know, it's not always just the dance moves. Maybe that information helps somebody open a school. Maybe he makes a documentary. Maybe he does something that is creating more value for the community.
You won't know.
You don't know. Yeah, it's the thing, because a lot of us, our end goal is the dance. What I did, it wasn't guaranteed. Whatever successes I've had, of course it worked out for me, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't mean that it will have to work out for everybody else either, right? Like, people are going to make it, and the chances are bigger now for people to make it, but it's not guaranteed. And I think that's the really hard part to speak on and also accept as a dancer.
We're coming to a close here. We have really, it's just one question, and it has to do with that. For us in the Midwest, and everyone I've talked to a few people within this last year. I've had the fortune to do this. East Coast, West Coast. I get up to Toronto once in a while. This year is just the open floodgates in terms of number of events this year. And you've talked about this point before. You've talked about regarding competitions, not to redline your engine, right? Don't get overwhelmed with battles week after week after week, and getting to a point where you're more intentional about what you want to do for each battle. How are you going to evolve and take away from each of these experiences? So my question here is, does that mindset kind of change for a person depending on where they are in their career? Maybe if you're getting to a point where you're hitting the 5-10 year mark and you're getting to a point where you really have a chance to win battles, whereas maybe you didn't before, and pick up a little cash along the way, build up your rep.
You have to be selective. I would say whether you're 5 years in, 10 years in, I think at this point with the accessibility of events right now that's going on, it's a beautiful thing. Not every single event you have to go to, right? So set your targets and having the drive to get to them. I think that'll give you a better way of preparation and more appreciation for your dance, because I think you still have to remember that this is about feeling. Like, you still want to feel good when you hit the floor. You don't want to go to a jam and force it and feel like, damn, I feel whack. It turns you off. And I think that's where people get lost in breaking, because they become good. They start reaching a level of success. They get some victories under the belt. And then they feel like they have to do every jam after. Yeah, then they have to go after everything. And yeah, you have to go for the big thing, but be smart about it. Like, when you look at boxers, they don't box every weekend, right? And boxing is one of the closest things that you can compare to an in solo breaking career. In breaking, you lose more, right? But they're selective. It's like, all right, I'm going to fight in January, and then I'm going to fight again in May, and then I'm going to fight again in August. And breaking is different. You don't, it's like, I'm going to battle this Saturday, I'm going to battle next Saturday, and I'm going to battle the Saturday after that, and then I'm going to battle 2 weeks after that, and then I'm going to battle again the next week after that. So at what point are you going to practice, and at what point can I see new things? That's why you set your targets, and then you give yourself something to keep yourself accountable by as to how you're going to prep for that target. And maybe you say, okay, you know what? I'll set up 3 battles in the next 2 months. I don't have to win all of them. I just want to make noise at them. And maybe if I win one, that's just a bonus. But my end goal is to win that last one. You have to start preparing for that psychologically, physically, everything. Your mind's already being occupied by those targets that you set for yourself. You get to the first one, maybe you win the first one. You're like, oh, damn, that was unexpected, and I performed well. So then that gives you an idea on your approach for the next one. That's maybe in 2 weeks. So you go back, you hit the lab, you regroup, you do well there, maybe you lose. Then you get to the third target, which is the big target. Maybe you don't win that, but you perform better than the last 2 battles. And you walk away more inspired from that. At the peak of my career, I never battled more than 13 times in a year. And other years, I would do like 10, 11.
And then taking it back to the point you made just now, even if you're winning battles, pro B-boys, they have it tough just trying to make it.
Yeah, breaking's hard, man. Trying to make it in breaking is difficult. You know, and I did it at a time when there was less events. I was in a relationship with somebody and we were splitting everything 50-50. Yeah, I was living off of battling for a while. You know, I don't recommend it. I mean, even after the clause out, 2010, that year's kicked off really dead. Max was flying me to Nashville to battle. Boom, won that battle. He flew me to Virginia to battle for like 5 racks with the crew, and we won that battle. That was rent money. It's like every week was like different battles, and it got so tight that I ended up getting an offer to go to Europe in May of that year. And at this point, I was already looking for a job because like the events were not as often. And one big job that was supposed to happen, I couldn't go because of the volcano in Iceland. So then the month later, I was supposed to go to this big job that they offered me. It would have covered my rent for at least 2 months at that time. And then I had promised Max that I would battle a Warsaw Challenge. And I wasn't getting paid to go to Warsaw Challenge. So I was trying to bail out, and I ended up just going to Warsaw Challenge and winning not even 1/3 of what I was going to get paid. But because of that success in that battle, even though it wasn't a big price thing, a bunch of work came from that. And immediately it was just like, boom, all summer long I was booked.
Combining these 2 ideas together, you're talking about a more healthy mindset, a one that's going to help you evolve if you think about being more intentional with your battles. And at the same time, you just said you're not really recommending making the living off of ballet. I'm trying to balance these two ideas. I think overall what you're basically saying is you gotta love this. This comes from the heart.
There's no guarantee at the end of it. If the passion ain't there and the will and the fire and the desire is not there, then it's just like...
And you might end up looking whack anyway.
Exactly. Maybe you don't look whack, but maybe you'll feel whack. You want to go somewhere feeling confident. You want to feel good about what you're doing and your approach to it. There's many different ways to do this, right? There's no one right way or wrong way. I'm just giving you guys my perspective, my approach as to the way that I've done it. It's not for everybody. But now with the accessibility of events, I think you're able to survive from competitive breaking a bit more if you're smart with your money. If you save your money and utilize it to get you to the next place, to the next thing, and just be smart with it.
Well, Rox, that's pretty much going to do it for today. I really want to thank you for your time today. A lot of gems dropped here, a lot of things that we can take back to the lab. And like you said, use this information. Not just one ear out the other, actually try to implement this in our dance. So before we wrap up here, did you have any other last thoughts?
I'm just happy to share this information with y'all and this side of my stories. Have fun with it, study, learn the dance, learn its history. Really go back and do your research on what you're representing so you know how to speak about it, and then it gives you a clarity as to where you can go with this.
So we're going to put it there, and we're going to wrap it up here. We're out of here.
Peace out, y'all. Thank you.